In the meditation of my heart be found pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Got a question for you. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and asked whether you like soup or salad? Not that I'm asking any particular person, but if you say soup, then you have to figure out what kind of soup you want. Maybe they have chicken noodle. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have some kind of yucky soup. Usually that's the case, though. Like split pea with ham. And I know there's people that love split pea with ham. It's just I'm not into it. So maybe salad is the easier way to go. Not really, because then you have to ask, well, what kind of dressings do you have? I particularly like Parmesan peppercorn. Okay. Do you have Parmesan peppercorn? No. Do you have ranch? Yes. Do you have some pepper? Yes. Do you have any Parmesan cheese? No. So, you're sort of stuck in saying, okay, I guess I'll go with ... But that starts as a kid. We're always asked, hot dogs or hamburgers? Hot dogs or hamburgers? Hamburgers. Vanilla or chocolate? The correct answer was cheeseburgers, which was not part of it, and vanilla fudge, which had both of them. But unfortunately, I did not bring any hamburgers with me. I did not bring any vanilla ice cream with me. So maybe if I run out with my voice, I could do something with it. But there's choices throughout life as we go through. We're in school, and it's like, okay, let's see. What sport should I play, if any? I don't know, the coaches usually decide that for you. Or maybe it's like, what instrument should I play, if any? Maybe you have a golden voice like me and you go into radio and you can't understand why you sound like this on a Sunday morning. God works in mysterious ways, what can I say? But then throughout life, we run into choices. And how many of us have made wrong choices in our life? Thank you, Bill. I was not going to ask for volunteers or even to say what they were. We can keep them. God knows what they are. But we do them anyway because we have choices. Maybe we chose the wrong partner somewhere along the line. And it always comes down to the fact that, free will is going to get you every time. Of course, we can order the wrong thing in restaurants, and who knows, maybe we end up liking what we tried at one time. I know there's many things I didn't try eating until I was 30, and that was only a couple of years ago. But sometimes choices have consequences with what you decide, like getting involved with the wrong crowd or getting involved with the wrong person. And sometimes it can have real dire consequences, like getting involved with drugs or drinking and driving. That's never a good choice. But today in the Holy Scriptures, we heard a whole lot about choices. It seems to be the recurring theme. And in our Old Testament lesson, Moses is talking, basically his pep talk, his long sermon before the Israelites go into the promised land after all they've been wandering around for 40 years. And he's basically getting right in their face and basically quoting God and saying, life death. It's up to you. And it goes on to say, okay, choosing life requires choosing God. Okay. And the way to do that, as it states in verse 16, is by loving the Lord your God, okay, walking in his ways, and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances. Okay, I'll give it a try. But then it's like, you do have a choice. You can choose death. Oh. And the next verse states that how you can do that. If for some reason you wanted to choose death, and that you'd rather be cursed than blessed, then all you have to do is, if you turn your heart away and you do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other gods and serve them, okay, there's your choice. But us, as we're in the 21st century, aren't that different than the Israelites heading into the promised land. We have choices, but the promised land we'll be entering is the one that was prepared for us after our earthly lives are finished. But are there idols in our own life that take precedent? Is it people, places, or things? Ideologies, technologies, consumerism? Hey, you got to keep up with the Joneses. It's simple. Follow God, thumbs up, cheers. Or follow those other gods, thumbs down, and tears. In today's gospel reading, it almost sounded like a sort of reflection on the Ten Commandments, but look a little different, or look a little deeper, and you'll notice it's all about relationships. And more importantly, treating others with respect. My favorite 21st century theologian, Reverend Dr. David Lose, expands on that thought when he says, quote, take the Ten Commandments, for instance. The first table is about our relationship with God, and our second with our relationships with each other. Understood this way, the whole law is actually a way of pointing us towards the way to honor those in whom we're in a relationship with. But somehow we forget that at times and get so caught up in keeping the law for law's sake. This is why Jesus intensifies the law, not to force us to take it more seriously or less seriously, but instead to push us to imagine what it would actually be like to live in a world where we honor each other as persons who are truly blessed and beloved by God. It's not enough, Jesus says, to avoid murder. You also have to treat each other with respect, not letting yourself fly off in anger, because that too demeans and diminishes God's children. And as we've learned in confirmation class, that we always pay attention to, right, Alex? That we've gone through the small catechism, and we hear Martin Luther's explanation of all the commandments, and in it, Martin Luther's saying, hey, it goes beyond not telling falsehoods about another person, but actually treating them with respect. And Reverend Dr. Lowe says, and all that hyperbole about cutting off limbs and body parts and burning in hell, and just serves to magnify how important our relationships are with God. And he says, I suspect this runs contrary to the way most of our folks think about God and God's law much of the time, unquote. My brothers and sisters in Christ, in the gospel reading today, Jesus, like I said, is basically talking about the commandments and how it's like, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And they, at first glance, they seem to be four different things. But if you look closer, they're all about relationships. And that how we deal with one another, how we treat or mistreat one another. Maybe a good question is, how do we want to be treated? Or, how would we like to be mistreated? Choices. Well, that one seems like a no-brainer. I don't know that many people that love to be mistreated. thinking that we're better than somebody else. We've all made mistakes. And for better or worse, we're no better or worse than any other person in God's eyes. God knows us. And like Deacon Donna said, it's all about forgiving one another. Maybe the whole world, or just those in our own personal little part of the world, could stand a little bit more of that kind of forgiveness. Maybe, just maybe, it could start with each one of us. But when? Choices. Amen.